Greetings all. So the purpose of this meeting is to show you how to place the storybook in the group folder correctly. Since part of your assignment is to create a storybook, and the storybook will be part of the assignment assessment. So basically, as you may remember, first you uploaded your data and you refined your data. Then you created the models or discovery books, right? Discovery workbooks. And then you use those discovery workbooks to create the display, the dashboard display or infographic. And then you put together those displays and infographics into a storybook. And you should have at least 5, right? In this example, I have only 3, but this is just an example. In your project, you're going to have at least 5. So basically, what you need to do is make sure that the data set you use to create the storybook is in your team folder. Make sure that any discovery workbook that you created is also in a shared folder, in your team folder. And also, you need to make sure that all of the dashboards and infographics that you use to create the storybook are also in a shared group folder. Let me take a look. Let me show you what I mean. When I click on the storybook, I'm right now in a view mode. I should be able to click on my tab finding, and I should be able to preview the content of the storybook without any problems. I should not see any messages that display missing, nothing like that. Here, when I click on the data preview, I should be able to preview my data. I should not see any messages saying that data not available, nothing of that nature. Now let me go ahead and minimize that, and I'm going to show you what happens when the files are missing. Let me close this, and I'm going back to the landing page. So here is an example of the storybook that is missing everything. All I see is just the storybook. I don't see any dashboards and infographics that I used to create the storybook. I'm going to click on it right now. Alright, so right now everything looks good. Actually not. See this? It says no data assets, which indicate that the data is not available, right? Well, there is an attempt to share the storybook, but when I click on data preview, I don't see anything. Now let's see what happens when I try to preview the tab findings. I click here and I see the message. If the message says the display could not be found, it means that I may have forgotten to move the dashboard or infographic file that I used to create this tab finding. So that's a problem, right? I won't get credit for it. Similarly, if I click here, I get an error message, no data available. It means I may have done something wrong, right? So now let me go ahead and close this. Close this. Let me show you another example. In this example, I have my storybook and I have 3 dashboards in here. Actually, yes, I have 3. But I forgot to move my data, right? So now let's see what happens. I'm going to click on my storybook to preview it. Now, the problem is, look, this is really tricky because it says that I have 3 tab findings and it says that I have 1 data asset. So that means that, in fact, it's finding, right? It's finding that I have 3 dashboards or infographics to create my display, right? And it's attempting to find the data that I used. However, let's see what happens when I preview. I click on my tab finding, and I still see it, right? I'll still see my map and so on. However, when I click here, I get no data available, right? So it means that I'm unable to preview my data, And I'm also unable to replace the data. Sometimes you may want to rerun the storybook on a different subset of the data that you used, of the data with a similar structure that you used to build the model. You may want to sometimes to upload uh, something like a test data, or it could be a data collected in a different time frame, something like that. You won't be able to do it here because we see no data available. Similarly, I click here. Nope, it tells me that looks like my initial data was collected from Twitter in this case, but I don't have access to it. So let me close this out. So again, this is what's going to happen when the data is not moved to the storybook, to the data that you used to build the storybook does not appear in a group folder. So let me close this out, and once again I'm going to review what you need to do. Make sure that all files that are related to your storybook that you're going to submit for grading appear in the group folder, right? So here is an example of the group folder that has all files. I've got my data file, I've got my discovery workbooks, and here I've got my dashboard, infographics, and a storybook. Very important, make sure that there are no files that are not related to your storybook. Just remove them. And make sure that you close all files when you log in. When you log in when you log out, right before submitting your work for grading, make sure that the files are closed. Click here. If you click here, the files that you have listed here, if your file is listed here, it means it's still open. So you want to click on X next to the file name to close it. All right. So that was a brief presentation on instructions to submit the storybook. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And my name is Yelena. So never hesitate to reach out to me if you need assistance as you completing the group work. Good luck to you all, and look forward to see very interesting storybooks.